Friends, you're in the military summary channel. In this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place in the world during the previous 12 hours. We have a lots of very interesting others, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about the Russian Federation. According to information we have yesterday in the evening, Vladimir Putin held a telephone conversation with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. During the conversation, the two leaders emphasized the need for a swift end to hostilities to prevent the situation from spiraling out of control and to return it to a political and diplomatic framework. Another important thing that right before this call, the president of the Russian Federation had a call with the president of the United Arab Emirates, and they were talking about the same thing, how to return the conflict to a diplomatic and peaceful framework. And the problem is, and the most important problem is, that the Iranians during the previous or since the beginning of this conflict have attacked significant number of oil facilities, tankers, and different oil infrastructure of the Middle East states. We're talking about the United Arab Emirates, we're talking about Qatar, Bahrain, we're talking about Saudi Arabia. At the same time, the United States of America continue attacking and destroying military vessels and ships of Iran. And during the previous night, the US authorities published lots of videos of how they were attacking fleet, how they were attacking military part infrastructure of Iran, and the Iranians published lots of videos of how they were attacking vessels and oil tankers in this area. According to information we have, by the morning of the 3rd of March of 2026, the Iranians have attacked at least from 6 till 8 vessels and tankers that were moving in the Persian Gulf and in the Strait of Hormuz. The sources are saying that ship traffic through the Strait of Hormuz has decreased by 85%, which makes very possible and very likely energy crisis that most likely is going to start very soon. When talking about European countries, we start receiving that the Europe is entering this crisis. The sources are saying that the price for gas currently was increased till $700, which makes it the biggest number since 2023. The US authorities continue publishing videos and photos from the area of the settlements of Bandar Abbas, Hormuz, and so on. We're talking about this port infrastructure. Today we received first fresh satellite picture from this area, where we can see the consequences of attacks. As you can see, most of the entire fleet of Iranians was completely destroyed as a result of attacks. Lots of ships were damaged, a lot of ships were completely destroyed. So we see that this port city, this military base, is under very heavy fire from the US forces. At the same time, the Iranians continue bombing and attacking bases and assets, military assets of the United States of America through the entire Middle East. At the same time, the United Arab Emirates and Qatar are pressuring US President Donald Trump to end the bombing campaign against Iran and to seek a diplomatic solution. But the President of the United States of America has completely different opinion on this matter. He made also lots of interesting statements. The President of the United States of America said that the big wave against Iran hasn't started yet. He warns US strikes could escalate as Iran's new leadership remains unclear. Another important thing, President Trump told New York Times he won't rule out sending ground troops into Iran if necessary. Another important statement, we initially planned to finish in 4-5 weeks, but we have the capacity to continue much longer, which means that most likely the states of the Middle East will not be able to force or to convince the President of the United States of America to stop this military campaign. And most likely they will not be able to do this because, once again, today we received lots of fresh satellite pictures where we can see the consequences of the Iranian attacks. For example, this is the territory of Qatar, and this is the US military base in this area, and as you can see, the base was significantly damaged. We're talking about these barracks, we're talking about facilities. For example, this is the situation before attacks, and this is the situation right after attacks. So as you can see, lots of buildings, lots of barracks, lots of these warehouses were damaged or even destroyed. And obviously this is not the end of this conflict. Another important base, another important area is the raiders to the north in the northern parts of Qatar. Here we can see also that, according to different satellite pictures that were published by different sources, a very powerful and important radar system that costs more than $1.1 billion was also damaged or even destroyed. So, and this is all just about Qatar. For example, when talking about Bahrain, there is a very big military navy base of the United States of America, which also was significantly damaged. For example, here we can see the changes between the dates. This is before the beginning of attacks, and this is right after the attack started. As you can see, different radars. So, for example, this radar and, as I understand, this radar were destroyed. Furthermore, these barracks and warehouses were damaged and destroyed as well. And once again, this is not the end of the conflict. And the Iranians continue bombing and attacking military assets of the United States of America. Another area is Kuwait. Here we can see the US air base in this area that was also heavily damaged. And here we can see smoke rising over this base, which means that something big and probably also important was damaged and destroyed. So, and another important thing that the Iranians, according to information we have, are attacking not just military bases, but the Iranians, as we discussed, are attacking oil infrastructure and oil facilities of these Middle East states. For example, today we received first fresh satellite pictures of destructions of the Saudi Arabia oil refinery. As you can see, according to these satellite pictures, the oil refinery, the biggest oil refinery in the world probably, was significantly damaged by drones that were launched by the Iranians. So, which means that this is a very, very critical situation for the Middle East and for the entire energy system and energy infrastructure of the world. Furthermore, according to information we have, the US decided to close embassies through the entire Middle East. We received reports about embassies in the United Arab Emirates, in Qatar, in Bahrain, in Kuwait. The United States of America are closing them for probably several days until the situation stabilized or something like this. And today we received a very important report that the Iranians attacked the US embassy on the territory of Saudi Arabia in the city of Riyadh, which is obviously something like a red line for the United States of America. Yes, obviously this is not an aircraft carrier that was attacked, but this is an embassy, which means that this is the territory of the United States of America that was attacked by drones. And this is once again a red line that the Iranians crossed, and most likely the United States of America, more precisely the president of the United States of America, doesn't have any other option but to continue military operation against Iran until the situation changes. As for the situation in Iran, we continue receiving updates of how the Americans and the states continue bombing and attacking forces, ballistic missile launch systems, air defense forces through the entire Iran. During the previous night, lots of videos were published on this matter. Obviously, the Iranians suffer huge losses, lots of vehicles were destroyed and so on. But the most important thing that during the previous 24 hours, a lot of military experts reported that it was noted that starting from the 3rd of March of 2026, both the Iranians and the coalition reduced the level of bombs and missiles being used. It seems that we see that first stage of the conflict is coming to this end, and the end of this conflict is the situation when both the Iranians and the coalition will start suffering problems with missiles. For example, today we got report that Qatar's stockpiles of Patriot interceptor missiles will last for 4 days, which already means nothing. Also, we have reports about the same problems in the area of Qatar, Bahrain, and of course in Kuwait and Jordan. So we see that everything that the United States of America managed to collect before the beginning of this military operation sooner or later will be finished and ended. But at the same time, the President of the United States of America said that everything is okay. The United States of America has endless warehouses, endless stockpiles of arms and weapons, and the United States of America is able to continue conflicts like this endlessly. Anyway, let's wait and see what is going to be next, but obviously nobody is going to stop and everybody is going to continue.
Bilka to go. Leveret til døren eller klar til afhentning.
Now let's discuss the situation in Ukraine. If you remember, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Keir Starmer, asked or proposed Zelensky to send his troops, to send his forces in the Middle East with the purpose to stabilize the situation. And during the previous 24 hours, Zelensky made lots of statements on this matter. He said that Zelensky is ready to help Middle East countries repel Iranian drone strikes if their leaders pursued Putin to agree to a 30-day ceasefire in Ukraine. I would propose the following. Middle East leaders have excellent relations with Russia. They can ask the Russians to implement a month-long ceasefire. As soon as ceasefire is concluded, we will send our best drone interceptors to Middle East countries. So this is the statement of Zelensky. Most likely this is not going to happen ever. Another important thing is that, according to information we have, the Russians are ready to carry out the next massive missile attack through the entire territory of Ukraine. And the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, stated that most likely this time the Russians are going to attack the infrastructure of water supply, which can lead also to very huge problems. Another important thing is Zelensky revealed information about documents they managed to probably capture or steal from the Russians regarding the Russia's plans for the 2026 and the next 2027. Zelensky stated that Russia is planning to the occupation of the east, advancing on Zaporozhye and Dnipropetrovsk regions and looking at the Odessa region for 26-27. So this is the situation. Let's wait and see. The Russians most likely will carry out another massive attack within the next 48 probably hours. Now let's discuss the situation on the ground. During the previous night, we received lots of very important updates and changes. The Russians, according to information we have, continued their Zaporozhye offensive operation, and now the Russians are tasked to establish complete control over the city of Orekhov. The Russians are advancing in the direction of the city from the west and from the east. As for the eastern direction, during the previous 12 hours, the video was published from this northern part of the settlement of Primorska by pro-Ukrainian sources. In this video, we can see how Ukrainians were attacking positions of the armed forces of the Russian in this area and Russian soldiers. So this attack took place right exactly at this point, and based on this video we came to the conclusion that either the Russians have restored control over the territory or the Russians have never lost control over the territory, despite claims of the pro-Ukrainian sources. Furthermore, the Russians improved their positions to the west of the settlement of Orekhov, to the north of the settlements of Stepovo and Mali Sherbaki. These are the changes on the ground between the dates. As you can see, the Russians are keeping advancing and the Russians are trying to maintain the lines in this area and to force the Ukrainians to fall back. So the western Zaporozhye, western Orekhov offensive operation is gaining in the momentum. As for the eastern Zaporozhye direction, we have changes here as well. So these are the changes between the dates. During the previous night, lots of neutral mappers and pro-western mappers adjusted their maps, showing and confirming additional progress on the ground from the Russian side. Furthermore, the most important, according to first reports, the Russians managed to infiltrate the southeastern part of the settlement of Verkhnya Tersa and currently there are very heavy clashes for this village. And the most important thing is that today pro-Russian sources published this video where the Russian soldier, this one, was talking about the battle for the settlement of Rizdvyanka, and during this video we can see lots of episodes of how Russians were fighting for the settlement, and in the final part of this video we can see at least 2 episodes when the Russians were raising their Russian flag. One of the flags was raised in the northeastern part of the settlement and the second one in the southern part. Based on this video we have adjusted the map. Basically we have removed the color of the yellow color from this territory, so now we have strong proofs that indeed the Russians most likely managed to establish complete control over the territory. At the same time, we continue receiving updates of Ukrainian counterattacks in the northern flank. According to pro-Ukrainian sources, the Ukrainians managed to improve their positions, or at least not to improve but to infiltrate additional territories with infantry, and these are the changes on the ground. So as we can see, the Ukrainians are keeping advancing or are keeping infiltration towards the next defense layer, which is located around the settlement of Uspienovka. But the main problem is that the spring is coming, which means that it will be much more easier for Russians to repel upcoming attacks. Let's say if these attacks take place in 2 or 3 weeks, because the weather would be completely different. And it seems that Ukrainians indeed are trying to recapture the settlement of Ospenovka and to cut the entire logistics of the armed forces of the Russian Federation before the beginning of the spring military campaign. As for the Dobropolye direction, we start receiving updates that the Russians began their major offensive operation in this area as well. The Russians are trying to get as close as possible the settlement of Dobropolye from the east, from the southeast, and from the south. The Russians are sending lots of troops in the northwestern direction. The Ukrainians probably have lots of drones, but this number of drones is not enough to stabilize the situation, to control every single true line. So that is why the situation is that the Russians have possibilities to move further in the northwestern direction, and it seems that Ukrainians are not able to do anything with this. Furthermore, today we received a video of how Russians managed to capture at least 4 Ukrainian soldiers in the most northwestern part of the settlement of Grishna, which means that the battle for this territory is also coming to its end. As for the settlement of Konstantinovka, during the previous 24 hours, we haven't received anything.
Prøv som bønner, instant eller kapsler.
Så tager du begge 2 krammer. Det er krammedukker fra Frie. Ja, vi er fra Frie. Det er så hurtigt krammer. Ej, hvor er en god til at kramme. Nej, du er hjemme, Marken. Tag dem begge 2. Gå hjem. Tag dem. Gå efter guldet. Penge.
As for the Slaviansk direction, the most important updates are coming from the area of Fyodorov-Kodruga. Today we received a video that confirms that the Russians during the previous days managed to improve their position significantly on the territory of the settlement of Fyodorov-Kodruga, and as you can see based on the video that was published by pro-Ukrainian sources, the map has been adjusted significantly. In this video we can see how Ukrainians were attacking positions of the armed forces of the Russian Federation in the southern part of the farms, and based on this video we can make a conclusion that either today or during this week the Russians, more precisely the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation, will confirm complete control over the territory. So the battle is about to be finished, it seems, and the Ukrainians from this very moment we see that they are not holding their lines, and the battle for the settlements of Alexandrovka and Nikolaevka will start very soon. Another important area is the northern directions. During the previous 12 hours, additional changes were also recorded. The most important changes are coming from the most northeastern part of the Sumy region. Today, the group of forces north and the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation confirmed that the Russians, as a result of clashes, managed to establish complete control over the settlement by the name of Babylivka. Based on these reports, we have adjusted the map. We see that the Russians are keeping advancing in the most northern part of the Sumy region without almost any resistance from the Ukrainian side. At the same time, we see that the Europeans are shifting their focus from Ukraine towards the Middle East. Germany, France, the United Kingdom, everybody is pointing their eyes in this direction. We see that France, the United Kingdom, and Germany announced that they're ready to join the United States of America and the coalition. At least they are going to do this with, not maybe like on the ground, but they can do this with supply and support, with missiles and so on. So it seems that the very hard times Ukraine are awaiting for Ukraine. And that's it for the short video. The Military Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.